Hello, and welcome to another video by ES Repair. I'm your host, Mr. Fix-It. In this video, I'm going to show you a software that I've come across. I've been asked to check the software out and let people know what I think of it. I've been trying the software out for about 2 or 3 weeks now, and I've tried about everything, or every scenario I could think of. And the software works really well. It's by Minitools.com. It's a Canadian-based company, and the software that they want me to look at is pretty well. It has basically everything that you could ever want or ever need in to run partitions or to try to recover a deleted partition. And let me go ahead and start it up here. It's called the Minitool Partition Wizard. It comes in real handy if you need to set up a hard drive, if you need to clone a hard drive, things like that. Let me go ahead and choose yes. Now the program is free for the Minitool Partition Wizard. I will show you another video about the Minitool Power Data Recovery. I've been working on that software. I will put a video up on that one to let you know what I thought of this one and let you know how it works and what to expect. This program here that we're going to work with is free. It's absolutely free. Let me go ahead and open it up. This is called Partition Wizard 8. This is the newest version by Minitools. Now the software, I like it because it's easy to use, it's easy to navigate. You don't have to know a whole lot about partitions. This one here, I've been working with it for a few weeks now. It does give you an option up here if you have facts for questions and stuff, frequently asked questions. You have some help if you need any help content, which shows you exactly all the steps that you can do. If you need some assistance like tech support or anything, they have a link to where you can contact them. You can also create a bootable disk. Now this will come in handy if you're having troubles with your hard drive, and it will allow you to make some repairs, especially like the MBR and stuff, which I've done videos for from another software, but basically it's all the same. If you like the program, you can share it on Facebook. You can even donate some money if you want to help support the free software for development of new software and technology. You can donate. Now this software here, as you can see here, we're on the main page. On the left you have your actions and wizards. The wizards is, you have one if you want to copy a partition to another drive. You can copy an entire disk if you want to. What separates the two apart, if you do a partition, that means, for instance, this drive here has 3 partitions. A partition is just an individual division of the whole hard drive, like this one here. Now if you wanted to copy this specific partition, you can. Most computers will have at least 3 partitions. One of them will maybe hidden, the other one's a recovery console to where you can recover the operating system to the factory reset. If you just have a specific partition on the drive you want to copy, you can do so using that function. If you want to do the entire disk, you can do an entire disk. That means it includes all of the partitions that's on that disk or on that drive. Now another one they have here that you'll like is the Partition Recovery Wizard. This one here comes in handy if you've accidentally deleted a partition. No problem, we've all done it. This program here will help you recover that partition. Like I said, it's simple to use. It has all the information here if you need it. You also have, these are all wizards that you can use. Let me slide the window over here. Now under here you have operations, which you can do specific things. Like for instance, this drive here is a blank drive. As you can see, none of it's allocated, it's just blank. Now with this, I can choose if I want to copy partition, if I want to copy a disk, or let's say this happened to be a partition that was accidentally deleted. Well, then I can use the Partition Wizard to recover that partition. Don't worry, I will do some tutorials to show you how all the functions work. Here under operations, it's a smart software to where it knows what functions you could do depending on the configuration of the hard drive. For instance, because this drive here is basic and there's nothing allocated, then I could create a partition. Depending on the format that you want to use, most cases you're limited to 4 different partitions. If you use a GPT format, you can go up a lot higher. You can do a surface test. What this does is it reads and writes data throughout the entire drive to discover any sections or sectors that's going bad, and reports back to you as to what it is discovered. Here's a cool tool that you'll like. If you have an old hard drive that you're wanting to get rid of, give it to a friend, or sell it in a yard sale or whatever, this program here, this function here, White Partition, will allow you to erase the entire drive. What this does is it writes zeros and random numbers, random data all throughout the drive on every single sector, every single byte that can be stored on the hard drive. It can wipe it out. This is also known like a secure erase. If it's an old hard drive that you're wanting to trash can or perhaps sell it to somebody else, this is what you can do. Now another thing that you can also do is get information about the hard drive. If you click on Show Partition Properties, this will give you the basic information, let you know how much data space has been used, how much is free, and the total amount that's available on the drive. Now even though you have, like this one is an 80 gigabyte drive, you're only going to get about 98% of the total drive space. Most of it's because part of it is used for the MBR or the file allocation tables, and it also has reserves. So if the drive does come into contact with a bad sector, then it can relocate that sector to a spare. You can get the partition information. This gives you the type, what kind of partition it is, the file system that it's using, and of course it does assign a serial number. Anytime your computer creates a partition, it gives it a serial number. This tells you the first sector of the drive where it begins, and the last sector where it ends, and the total of physical sectors. Now as you can see, this is a blank drive, and let me show you how easy it is to use the software. Let's say that I want to create a new partition. Now either I can come over here and click Create Partition, or I can right click on the drive and then it gives me some other options that I can do based upon what's available on the drive already. Now, as you can see here, I can move and resize, I can extend, I can merge partitions, I can even split a partition. Copy, I can explore to see what's on the partition, create, delete. Align is a new function that I've seen on these partition management softwares. What this does is aligns the boundaries of the partitions. You can either do it by cylinder alignment or by megabyte alignment. Most common uses, which is the best performance with today's hard drives, will be the align them by megabytes. Now, this is a common thing, especially if you have a solid state drive. You want to make sure that the alignments are correct because they are slightly different than what a traditional hard drive is. You can format it, you can give it a name, you can change drive letters, like if it's assigned drive letter M, like this one over here is, and you don't want that, you can assign it to a different letter. Doesn't matter. Check file system. What this does is it checks for errors. It's just like the program with check disk in Windows. This allows you to check to make sure that everything's intact and correct. It will allow it to make changes if it finds any types of errors. This one here, which is a convert FAT to NTFS. This is a common tool if you have drives that's configured as FAT32s or FAT16s. This will allow them to convert the entire drive to NTFS without harming the data. Here is reverse. It's the opposite, to where you can convert an NTFS drive into a FAT. This comes in handy because, as you noticed recently, I've done a video about Macs. Macs cannot understand NTFS. They can read the NTFS drives, but they can't write to those. But if you convert it to a FAT or a FAT32, then the Mac can read and write to those file formats. Again, you had a surface test. You can modify if you want to set the property or the use of this drive, like set active or inactive. You can hide a partition. If there's a hidden partition on your computer, you can unhide it. You can set the function of the partition, if it's primary or if it's just going to be used as data. Primary is used for if the drive is going to be used to boot up the system or boot up the operating system. If you're just using the drive to store data, then you can use set the partition as a logical. You can change the serial number. I haven't understood why this would be necessary, but it is here if you want to change the serial number. You can also change the type of ID of the partition, which you don't have to worry about, because if you change the type, you will run into problems if the ID doesn't match the actual format. And then, of course, you can change the cluster size. The cluster size is how many sectors goes to a track. The default is 4,000 bytes per sector. And that's what this one here will change if you want to. Again, you have the white partition and the properties. Now, if you click a different hard drive, let's click on this one, then you'll see that everything changes. If it's grayed out, that means that you cannot use that function. If it's in color, that means you can use that function either on that drive or on that partition. Now, over here, as you see, you get the same functions over here. And you'll notice that you can have two options. You can use a function over here, or you can right click and then do the function there. Now let me go ahead and give you an example. Let's work with this drive here. It's unallocated. I'm going to create a partition. So I'll go ahead and click Part Create. Now this gives you the option as to what you want to create, how you want to create it. You can choose the name of the label. I'm going to use it as a data drive, so I'm just going to leave this as logical. You can give it a letter, whichever drive letter you want to give it. These are the ones that shows that it's available. You also had the filing system, which gives you an options from FAT16, 32s, NTFS, extension 2, 3, or 4. You can also use it on Linux, or if you want to, you can just leave it unformatted. You can also set the cluster size from 512 bytes to 64 kilobytes. Again, that's how many bytes per sector. Down here is a graphical representation of the drive. Now you can choose if you want to size it, where you want to position it. You can use the whole drive. If you want to divide it, it does not matter. If you want to do it manually, you can go down here and choose manual options. You can choose how many space between partitions, how large this partition will be. You can choose unallocated space after the partition, and finally you can do the partition alignment. When you create the partitions, you can choose if you want it done by the cylinder, which is in the old hard drives, or if you want to do it by megabytes. The more efficient one is to use the megabytes, especially if you're setting up a solid state drive. Now I can say, yep, okay, this is what I want here. I'll choose OK. Now you'll notice that this is set up. The computer has now a new drive letter. This is the format that it's going to be in, and this is the amount of space that's on it, or how much I've used. Now if you look down here in the lower left, you'll see these tasks. The task comes in handy because you can do multiple tasks. Like for instance, I said that this one here is going to be a new drive, so the first task it's going to do is create my drive, or create the partition on disk 5. Now let's say, okay, well, let me go ahead and split my partition. Now I can say, okay, well, let me go up here and I want to split it. Now this graphical representation here, either I can do into the numbers manually, or I can just move the slider back and forth as to where I want the split to begin. Now I can go all the way over here and then say, yeah, okay, this is where I want to split. In most cases, this is often used for recovery partitions. And then I can say, okay. Now you're going to see that this is the update. This is what the drive is going to look like when it's finished. Now if you look down here, you're going to see the operations that are pending. I've got this one, and then it's going to do this one. And then you're going to see here that it's going to make some changes. It's going to resize the first partition and then create the second partition. Once you're finished, all you have to do is choose Apply. It's going to bring up the message, and then choose Yes. And then it's going to go through the process. It shows you how far it's going to go. And then when it's finished, it's going to update the information. Now it's going to update the list of partitions. And there you go. Now you'll notice down here that all the pending operations have done. Over here now I have my new drives. Down here in the bottom of the list, it gives you the detailed information about those partitions on that drive. Now, if you look up here, you'll also see where you can do quick links access to where you can move, resize a partition, you can merge, you can delete, you can format, copy, label, and look up the properties. Again, it shows you now what the properties of the new partition is. Now up here you have your general where you can read disks, and what this does is it updates the list of the disks that's connected to your computer. View, you can choose your toolbar, legend bars, actions, you can do where the disk map locations are, you can even change the fonts in the software. Under disk, you basically have the same functions as you do down near the bottom, but these allow you a little more control to where you can convert dynamic disk to a basic disk and vice versa. You can initialize a drive to use MBR, or you can initialize a new disk to use GPT. Now, there are some functions that will not work in the free version. This one here, where you can convert a dynamic disk to a basic disk, this is one of the functions that do not work in the free version, but in most cases you don't even have to use it. Partition, here again you have the same information that you've seen when you right click the partition themselves. Dynamic disk, this gives you the information on creating or editing dynamic disks. And here you have your wizards, your copy partition wizards, disk wizards, and partition recovers. Now, if you make a mistake, as we've always done before, you can recover a deleted partition. Now, they do have software, which I will do later, that will recover data from a hard drive, but I'll get to that later. Over here you have your help. You got your frequently asked questions, your contents. You could even check for an upgrade to see if there's a new version of the software out. You can export disk configurations, which means you can save your current configurations. If you're having some issues or you need some assistance, you can make a screenshot that you can send to tech support if you need their assistance. And here, to see what version you have, you can click on About, and this will tell you what version you have. Now, I've been using the software for 3 weeks, and it's real handy. It's easy to use. I will show you tutorials on how to do all the functions on the software with your different scenarios. And I will also be doing the data recovery software. I'm going to be working with it for a while to get used to it and understand how it works and try different scenarios like I did this one. And as you can see, the software is basic. It's easy to use. Anybody can use this software. It's absolutely free, and you can download it from minitools.com. Well, I'm your host, Mr. Fix-It. Thank you for watching.